We're talking common law. We're taking a deep dive into law versus legal. We've got Rob Michael coming on. We've got David coming on. We've got Crystal coming on as well. It's going to be one hell of a show. So you guys are not going to want to miss this. Hey, we're taking a deep dive into law. So guys, go ahead and put your questions in the question box. General Executor is in the house. It's down like a science here. Hey, brother.
Hey, man, what's happening?
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man.
Yeah, dude, I can only imagine what you've been up to.
Oh, man, just a ton of shit. Actually, right now I'm on a cleanse, so I've been doing like a 3-month juice and grape and watermelon cleanse. So I'm about 3 weeks in, going on
Dude,
4.
it looks like you lost some weight already.
Oh, 20 pounds.
Damn, very
Yeah,
nice, man.
yeah. So been doing that and just going through my Kansas case and working on next steps for what we're doing at the House of Marcus Fellowship. So it's been quite busy.
Dude, well, that's good to have you here. David, how are you,
Hey,
brother?
Dave.
Good to see you guys. Go commence. Keep talking. Let's hear about this cleanse.
I was just saying, man, this cleanse is it's just lemons, 3 to 5 lemons 3 times a day for about 3.5 months, and just grapes or watermelon, one or the other. That's it, nothing else. And I'm telling you, man, I'm already completely clear. Not completely, but my head's been a lot clearer. Mucus has totally just gone down in my body. Inflammation, 20 pounds dropped. All this. And I've done similar things before, but not to this extent. So, 3.5 months is a pretty long time, but they say that, in order to get a lot of those heavy metals and things out that have been building up for years and years and years, it takes that long, and then of course from there, just a total plant-based diet, of course. So
Yeah, and
yeah, man, feeling great.
mucoid plaque. Have you got the mucoid plaque out? That
Oh
plaque
yeah.
broke?
Well, working on it. Yeah. Working on
Yeah.
it. It's getting there, a little bit at a time. And the other thing is rebuilding the lymphatic system and the endocrine system and all with herbs, straight herbs. So yeah, any fruit, man, fruits, any fruit will clean you out, boy. You know.
You're speaking to the right people here.
Yeah, I
We're,
know.
we're-
That's why I'm telling you, man. I'm jumping on the bus.
welcome. I'm jumping on your bus, by the way, with this
Right,
law stuff
exactly.
recently. Look at this. Our worlds are colliding.
Yeah, it's awesome.
That's the
Yeah,
bus.
Totally
guys.
cool.
That's the bus to jump on right there behind Rob.
Yeah.
What is it behind you?
That's a Shem Society seal, the society that we're building at the House of Marcus. That was given to me in my own vision after months and months of thinking of what the seal was going to be. And then all of a sudden, after I did some plant medicine, some visuals, things came through about a week after that. No, I'm sorry. It was right before I did the plant medicine. This kind of downloaded in my, consciousness to say, hey, you need to speak to these powers that be in the symbols that they're used to, that they know, right?
Mm.
Symbolism is a language. That's why people really need to start looking around at all the symbols. They're telling you everything right in front of your face. They're just using symbols back from Egypt and everything to do that. So the symbols are the keys, which are the keys of knowledge and wisdom, the gold and silver key, which the Bible says are the keys of knowledge and wisdom. The sword, which is the word of God. The apple, which is the law of God. The crown, which is God's sovereignty. And then the wheat, which is the people, God's people. So what it's saying is God's people use the word of God to protect the knowledge and the wisdom through God's law because they are his children under his crown. And then it says in Latin, children of heirs to the kingdom of heaven.
Yeah.
That's the seal.
Wow, man. Well, that's wild. It sounds there's so much depth to that, and
It's definitely next level. And that's what I'm trying. See, back in 2013, when I went through all this stuff with the Vatican and everything, that's what was shown to me. Like the most powerful power and the way out of this system, if you will, even though we're not really in the system, our property is through the Bible, because that's how the whole system is set up. Okay. Now, what do? They make people have a bad taste in their mouth about Christianity, because they make it condemning, damning, about war and all this stuff. But that's not what true Christianity is about, right? So if they can get you to hate it, they can also get you to turn away from what the actual key to getting out of here is, because they put it in the book. It's in there. It's in all the writings, all the passages and everything. The keys are in there. So that was shown to me in 2013, and that's why I've always been adamant about, this is what I use, God's law, the highest law, the Bible. And actually, it was just confirmed to us by a very high-level church, 501c3 church. It's not a 508, it's a 501. And we just randomly met this person, and he is in his 70s, former engineer for the government. And they did him wrong, like they do all these engineers. He worked on the space program. So he's like, hey, I want to, screw them. I want to get back at them. So he got with another high-level, high-clearance guy who was an IRS guy, and he showed him how to set up his 501 so that he has complete diplomatic immunity in every country, and he has $10 billion a month or $10 billion a year he can pull in with tax-free. And he said the way that they set me up was they had to put Bible verses in the application. So when you submit it to the IRS, it reads, you're not speaking to humans here, by the way, guys. You're speaking to mail rooms that read letters, and they pull out certain words when you speak to these government officials through your communications. Wow. So when you fill out an IRS application, just like when you send a dispute to the credit bureaus, they're just scanning for certain words. And when they hit certain buzzwords, they know to move you to the next level, or to pull things off your credit report, okay? This has been confirmed to me by people that work in these agencies. So what he said was it took Bible quotes to get them to the highest level, where they weren't corralled by some, worker, IRS worker, that's a man or a woman who sits there and corrals you to lower levels. If it reads your application and sees you put in the right buzzwords, it'll kick you to the next level. So that's, again, and what do they use? Bible verses, because the whole system is built on it.
Oh my God, what a rabbit hole, man. We got to go down there. Well, guys, I want to just say we've got people tuning in here. This is fascinating. We're already past the weather, and he's diving in. But guys, I'm excited to have this conversation, and we've got Rob and Dave in the house, and Rob has been going, he has been down the path of law, true law, common law, God's law, natural law, however you want to define it, for a long time now. And I truly consider him one of the top experts out there on the subject. He's got something called the House of Marcus Fellowship, which is it's his website. It's an awesome community where people are coming together, learning this stuff. And Dave is part of that. And Dave has been rolling up his sleeves, and a lot more advanced than I am. Has taught me a lot as well. And I'm the new kid on the block, but I'm proud of myself for rolling up my sleeves and going through this Law for Mankind course. It's like a 20-hour course. And I've been doing that for the last 3 weeks, and I'm learning so much. And I'm understanding what you said before that I didn't know. So the cool thing is we're promoting and getting this word out on this free course. Dave and I are, and we want, and Dave's a big fan of what you're doing with the House of Marcus Fellowship, and we want you to talk about that as well. But man, can we let's talk about law versus legal, maybe give some ground or foundation about what we're going to talk about today, just a little bit of a foundation of why don't we say law versus legal, and what is common law, kind of go there, and just we'll spin off from that. Yeah,
I'll answer that real quick. I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead. I would rather you anyway, Dave, because I'm so, I've been in this so long that sometimes when I explain stuff, it's way over people's heads. So I think Dave would be perfect for answering that.
And I love those videos you do, by the way, where you just talk for like half an hour straight. It's just great. Yeah, it doesn't go over everyone's head, but so everyone, there's this Law for Mankind course that I'm taking, and I'm sure a lot of the principles and concepts Rob would be familiar with if he was taking, and it's lining up with what I already know. And everyone, there's going to be on the 25th a live Q&A with the creators of it. So we're promoting this Q&A. So if you have any questions, things don't make sense for you, you can ask the creators of this entire course on the 25th. So just wanted to get that out there to everyone. But what I've studied so far is they're looking at reality and fiction. They're looking at men and women in the private, essentially, and titles, and how, if you remember on our previous lives, we've talked about the hierarchy of creation. What's under the creator is men and women, and then under that, there's various levels. Now, what they've done is tricked us in various ways: wordplay, not knowing the definitions of words, tacit agreement to accept these titles, which brings our status down. And that is when then they have jurisdiction over us. And so the titles is many things, anything that's not a man or a woman, and even a title of obviously person, because a person is a trust, a corporation, something fictitious. It's all getting us into their realm of the dead and stuff that doesn't have any life to it, which is what men and women are. We have life, we have substance. And so they take us into their realm, which is commerce and land of the fictions, and we tacitly agree, we sign our name as being this person, this legal fiction, and we do that all throughout our lives. And they're basically saying, hey, we're giving you the option, it's just you don't have the knowledge. What is it, Hosea 4:6? My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, right?
Yep.
So we haven't known what we're doing. We're playing chess and they're playing checkers, and so that's what I've learned so far in this course. And it's we want to be men and women, basically. A good question for Rob, though, to segue would be, Rob, we can refer to ourselves as general executor. We can refer to ourselves as the beneficiary, but does that even, calling ourselves that, does that take our status down as man or woman?
Well, it's technically, in my opinion, that's all up to you and how you want to operate. The thing I've learned is, have you ever been in handcuffs? Have you ever been arrested?
Yes.
Because if you've never been arrested, or even if you have, and you go in saying, I'm a man and you're a fiction, they're going to go, good, get in the cell. That shit doesn't fly there, right? So it is good to know how to do business, because you have to know who you are in that business relationship in relation to that thing, which is your straw man, right? I call it the legal person, because that's what it is. You have to know who you are in relation to that, because when it does come down to an arrest situation, it's not the same as dealing with a State Department coming at you saying, you need to move your fence, or that you can't, administer certain health stuff. It's different. It's a whole different ballgame. So that's why I say it's really up to you. But the fundamentals of knowing that, you're a man or a woman and not a person is crucial no matter what, because that is foundational knowledge, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So in terms of that's taking your status down, I venture to say no, because I'm always a man. I can pick what titles I want to be.
Right. That's what they're saying is we are not. And when you have an adjective in front of a word, in front of a noun, like you're this man, now you're taking your title, your status down, because you're a title. You're a this man, but you can be. This is what they're teaching in the course. You can be a man acting as a. Right.
Right. Which is why you go ahead.
Right.
Ben.
Yeah. A couple things. A few things. I'll comment on that. But first, I want to say, the course that we're referencing, Dave and I have that in our bios. Is that correct to say you have it in there, Dave? The link here?
Not yet. I will.
Okay. It will be in there soon. I do have it in my bio now. But also we've got Rob who has his own program, and make sure to go to the link in his bio and check that out as well. That is something too. So we're kind of covering both bases here today. But what they were comparing, coming back to your topic about truth versus fiction, is they were saying it's like there's a monopoly board, and the legal system is like you are the tokens, you are the little race car, the thimble on the board, and you're taking yourself to be that, and that's in the legal system. But in true law, you're actually the player who's playing it, and you realize you're playing this game of Monopoly, and you can play if you want to or not, and you can jump in when you want to or not. But when we're caught in the legal systems, we're actually taking ourselves to be that straw man. Is that the fair analogy?
Yeah, this is why they've registered you, so that you're automatically on the playing board. Before you even come, the minute you come out of the womb, you're on the playing board. So that's why they've done that. Now, take that a step further. They're putting you on the playing board as the creditor. You just don't know that. They've given you a certificate showing that that certificate obligates them to you, not the other way around. Okay, it's an obligation of the United States or whatever country you live in. It's their obligation because they put the full faith behind the record, which is a debt to you. I know that's high level stuff, but yes, they are putting you on the playing board. So you need to know how that playing board functions and who you are on it.
So the whole trick is then saying we know who we are as the creditor, as men and women acting as the creditor in this capacity. And that's why it's important to obviously correct your status, property, and obligation, which are the tenets of Roman civil law, which I've learned from you. It's not just status. You don't want to just correct your status. But that it's important that we make those declarations and put the public, which is the beast commerce system, on notice that we know who we are and we're stepping into that role, and we're doing so peacefully and honorably.
Yeah, that's why I haven't put out my notices yet, but they're coming because, dude, I just went through some ridiculous Code of Federal Regulation stuff that pinpoints everything that I've been doing with the birth certificate up to this point, and it was all sitting right there, and I didn't even know until the other day. I was like, oh, did that. Okay, that's why this is working. That's why that's working. Because it's all in their federal code. I mean, they don't hide it. They just use words that hide it, right? So it's all there. But like I showed somebody and they're like, oh my God, you read through all this stuff? I'm like, yeah, every day. I know right where to go to because now I'm so familiar with the language. That's why your definitions are so important. Just like Law for Mankind, they're teaching you basic definitions, which is great. That's why I think their program is really good because they're really teaching you the basics of how this works, and they're putting it to you in a very simple way that your mind can see.
Exactly.
The definitions, the legal definitions of things are so important because then you can start to understand the trickery in the language, right? Because it's all about that forked tongue language speaking out of both sides of their mouth, And now it's like, oh, I see right where it is. To the point to where you're going to start seeing this stuff. These public officials don't even know this stuff because they can't read it that way. They really don't. And that's clear in my Kansas case. They look like a bunch of bumbling idiots. I mean, trying to run a courtroom. I'm like, this is how you run a courtroom? This is a joke. I mean, it's a joke. Well, it really is.
Just really quick, I just think the analogy is comparable to like in the health community. You have medical doctors, but they didn't really take nutrition in school. Yep. They know a lot about medicine, but they don't know anything about detoxification and nutrition, right? And it sounds like law versus knowing the true legal system is very same.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
Dan?
Yeah. So the trick, I think, is how do we step into their arena, to their courtroom, and take control?
Well, that's the thing. You won't have to, okay, because you have to get to a certain point where, and this was clear even in my Kansas case, these people don't get it. Like, the judge was fumbling to try to figure out what law she literally just denied my motion under. She didn't even know. I'm like, you don't know this? You just, wait a minute. And then they threw the Constitution out, which is what I tell everybody. The Constitution is not at play. It's not at play. When there's an emergency or a war, it's not at play. And she told me that clearly. She said the Constitution doesn't apply because we're in a COVID emergency. Doesn't apply. They had 180 days to bring me to trial. They scheduled it out for 350 days later. She said, oh, but we don't have to give you your right to speedy trial, which is a constitutional protection because we're in an emergency. So she admitted that whenever there's an announced emergency or war, the Constitution doesn't apply. Well, if you look, they're always announcing wars and emergencies. So it's never, you can't even apply it. They only let you apply it sometimes to keep the mystique looking good. So everything looks good, the facade. So, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is rigged. So what we have to do, or what my goal is with the House of Marcus and everything, is, and use it, we have a 24-year litigating attorney that's my best friend. So we look at public and private side. We look at both sides of the coin. And we're looking for the correct administrative procedure that's not Uniform Commercial Code, 1099-A tax forms and all that garbage, to go straight to the source and say, correct the records, deposit my exemption certificate, and correct the records. Because that certificate they gave you, whether it's naturalization or birth certificate, that's your exemption. That's your exemption from all of this shit. They just don't tell you that. They don't teach it to you. So Dave, to answer your question, we're trying to get it to the point where that shit won't even come. Oh, he's one of them. Let him go. Right. That's it. There is no court at that point. Not unless you've injured somebody or harmed some, with malice and intent, which is crime. That's real crime.
Right. Well, yeah, just real quick, Ben,
no, please.
The reason why I say that is because there's lots of people that are being damaged and their unalienable rights being taken away, and they're scrambling. They don't know what to do. And me personally, I really want to hold these people accountable who would not let me into their shops because I didn't wear a mask. My buddy and I, we perfected our private process. You know this, Rob, Ben, I think I've told you. I sent out 6 rounds of affidavits, agent for service of process, witnesses, notarized, no rebuttals. They tacitly agreed to everything. Now, I haven't flipped the switch on the lawsuit because I saw one guy who did this, who filed a Section 42, 1983 lawsuit, deprivation of rights under the color of law. The judge just laughed at him and threw the case out and then just said, thanks for coming. Thanks for paying your filing fee. So I've been on pause and I've been praying and asking for guidance, like, what should I do? And the guidance said to focus on Rob's paperwork. So I've been putting my energy into that. But now I'm getting these pushes back to, hold on, you have a perfected claim here with 6 people who have damaged your property, which is your rights. I have something. I want to be able to step in this court and not play by their game, because I'm learning in this course, men and women don't complain. And that's the first step of a lawsuit, is a complaint and summons. And I have a claim already perfected. So I want to be able to step in and say, listen, I just need a summary judgment here. There is no controversy. We have unrebutted affidavits. I have a fee schedule. They owe me over $20 million each. And, with the way the economy is, hey, I want my money. And I've been damaged. And this, it's just, you can't get that remedy, it seems like, unless you play by their rules. But then if you do play by their rules, they can just say, no, you did this one little technicality wrong. We're throwing this thing out. I want to know how to do that, where you step into the court as a man or woman and say, I am filing a claim here, not a complaint, and I want a summary judgment. And hopefully we can get there. I don't know how we will.
Well, let me just impart some wisdom if I can. Okay, so, and this is going to sting for a lot of people. It really is. It's going to sting. Look, fighting them is never going to work. It's never going to work. They are the largest war machine on earth, and they have perfected this, okay? And their machine is to run you down, to run you out, run your money out, wear you out, stress you out, damage you, all of that. What if you were literally able to walk into a bank and walk out with 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5, $6 million, just like that? No credit checks, no nothing. Okay. Now, that would make damages a little easier palatable because you got some money in your pocket, right? Now you could actually do something. What if instead of going into the court and saying, hey, I'm going to put this on the public record, you went into federal court and sealed the case and let them know, I'm not trying to put this in the public because that would be an act of belligerence and war, which you guys have a right to destroy me if I show you that. Oh, and I've got all the money to back me up to go forward. That to me seems like a much more a better way, which is what we're working on, right? We're working on perfecting this stuff so that is possible. And we're very, very close because the system is never going to allow you to win a court case or a precedent, especially using this stuff, because then it would prove everything and everybody could use it, right? So it's got to be kept under, privacy, which is a sealed case in federal court, or what would be called in-camera evidence.
Right.
In state court. Now, yes, these actors have damaged us, but once we become the owners, it's a lot easier to just deal with the bond companies and, the surety for them and all that because, hey, I've got damages here. I'm just going to go to the bonding company. Like, we don't even need to go to court,
Right, yeah.
That's where we're trying to get to because I agree. Now, the other piece of wisdom I wanted to say was, yes, there are a lot of people being taken advantage of. And, dude, for years, I stressed the hell out but I did help a lot of people with foreclosures, their children being taken, IRS, but I was up day and night stressing because their case became mine because they didn't know how to respond next. They didn't know what to do next. And that's when I said, I can't do this anymore. And when I read the Bible and it said, you don't fish for them, you teach them to fish. So when people are being attacked and they're getting hurt, that's probably their wake-up call to, hey, you better learn what the law is and how to do this for yourself because no man or woman is going to be able to do this for you. They're just not.
Good point.
Neither is an attorney, right? Because an attorney, like my attorney friend, he didn't step in my Kansas case. I didn't want him to. That was all me. I just had him in the background, major tips. For the most part, and working on paperwork together if we had to, but I didn't want because I'm a man. I'm in there in my own right? And they still just are showing me we're going to railroad you all the way through the jury trial. So I'm like, great, that's perfect. I've got enough evidence now. I can go into federal court, seal the case, and start a whole different issue. Let's just have you convict me, and that's what I'm letting them do. I'm going to let them convict me purposely. Right? Because I'm not in there to win. I don't give a shit about winning. I'm not there to win. I'm there to collect evidence and turn around and sue them.
In federal court. Yeah. You're in state right now. Okay. So your answer to my question is essentially we're going to get to the point eventually where we don't even go into court. We don't even go into their arena. We just go after the bond company who insures them. Yeah. Yeah. And then you
go after the money.
Right. And you're also saying that we want to go and the judge's private chambers, the in-camera hearing would be the only way we would be able to get something.
Well, that's in state court. So it's in camera in state, and in federal, they call it sealing the record or the evidence. So the same thing, just they use two different terminologies. So in state court, you're in camera, but they don't allow in camera very easily. You have to petition for that in the state court. Federal court, you can seal the case right from the start if you have good reason to seal the case. And again, a lot of this is process and procedure, right? So yes, it's good to know all the freedom, common law, private man stuff. But somebody told me years ago, another piece of wisdom, make sure you learn both sides. You know a lot about one side. And you know what? She was absolutely right, because a year later when I was in jail, I realized I don't know enough about their side. Shit, right? I'm stuck. So when I got out, that's what I did, was I focused on their side of the equation too. Know your enemy, know how they work, right? So process and procedure in knowing process and procedure in courts is very important if you're going to get into the court battle. Very important. Even if you're not, just so you can protect yourself. Like, I've seen people go into pretrial conferences and argue their case. That's not what a pretrial conference is for, right? This is just an example. Or they show up at a motion hearing and they argue the case. That's not what the motion hearing is for. It's to argue your motion, why you feel the court should grant you your motion. People don't know this. They go into court and they're just guns a-blazing, and they get all emotional. And it's like, no, no, no. It's not emotional. It's business. No matter how bad it hurts, it's business. And when I was in the courtroom April 13th, I had to sit back and breathe. And as much as I wanted to strangle these guys, just go, okay, what's the next move here? Let me think. Because I'm not going to get emotional about this because you guys aren't emotional. It's not emotional to them. So yeah, there's a lot of knowledge, man, if you're going to get into the crux of this. But to protect yourself, knowledge. You can never have enough knowledge in this stuff. That's why they don't teach us this in school.
Yep.
You know, it's one of the reasons that we've had a number of lives together, Rob. Dave, you and I are catching up as well now. And so I've always been curious about this stuff. And then recently I was starting to become really intrigued by it. And I've been spending hours each day for the last like 3-4 weeks. I've been quiet on Instagram. I haven't been posting much. And it's just because I'm really trying to understand the private law versus public, and what's an affidavit and what's a notice and what's a claim and all this stuff. And I'm starting to figure out and piece this terminology together. And I realized that, you know what, just like we learn anything, and we got the rest of our lives, let's get the foundation of health so we can live healthy for the rest of our lives. Let's learn the basics of investing and finances, because we're going to be doing that for the rest of our lives. And I think the idea that I feel almost like a public responsibility and duty to kind of understand this law, because we've been fighting this battle. You know, yes, we want to step outside and build parallel systems, but there's also this existing system that we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. And I said, you know what, I'm going to dedicate May to going through this Law for Mankind course, learning it, becoming more knowledgeable, and then applying that. I feel like a duty as a I was going to say a citizen, but I wouldn't use that term anymore. As a man, so, you know, to learn this and apply it. And the idea that we're getting this course for free and we're getting a free Q&A for the Law of Mankind, I think that's amazing that we're that Greg Paul is giving this to us, because I can just imagine if we're all starting to apply this stuff, just a few people start to apply it like you two are, boy, it could be a game changer, because you guys are out there fighting the giants, you know, and you're taking this on. But and now there's so much support with House of Marcus Fellowship, and that's Rob's organization. And Rob has this where you have a group, people are coordinating, discussing their claims, the notices, and things together, and discussing all this stuff. And Dave and I are promoting this Law for Mankind course because it is free for people and it's a free seminar. So let's dive in. Like, let's become the change we're looking for. Start to learn this stuff so we can apply it to the mandates, so we can apply it to the tyrants who are taking advantage of us. And we're sitting there like deer in the headlights, not knowing what the hell to do about it, and constantly leaning on those who do know. So I'm just, you know, realizing for me, it's time to step up to the plate, and, you know, I'm excited to, you know, get to the next level.
I remember in our first one with Eno, our first live.
Yeah.
When I still remember the look on your face when I started talking about affidavits and how I have these unrebutted affidavits. You literally had like a deer in the headlights. You were like this. You like there's something. Wait, what? I can send affidavits, and when they don't get rebutted, then that actually, when you do that 3 times, you know, that counts as a new agreement. And so, anyways, it's just little concepts like that that can open your whole world. When I was doing a Zoom call with Greg Paul, and I told him what I'm concerned about, I want to get relief, remedy. I want to hold these criminals accountable. I pray for that every day, for the wisdom and the guidance. And he said, at the end of this course, I think you're going to have a great foundation for that, for actually getting that relief and remedy. So I plan on finishing this course and then also just doing all my paperwork with Rob and House of Marcus, and continuing to take in the knowledge from Jurisdictionary. It's a good course. I know, Rob, you've taken that. That's the Jurisdictionary, Ben, is howtowinincourt.com, I believe it is. And it's basically how to be your own lawyer. And it's just knowing their system and the steps they take that, you know, because the bar associations, the bar guilds, they run the world. And they're all on the same team, and we're not on that team. The prosecutors, the attorneys, the judges, okay? And so we have to know the games they play. We have to know the steps they take. And it is all commerce. It's all administrative. And it's very hard to get remedy there.
They're the gatekeepers, by the way. Now, there's a lot of mystique out there about the bar, you know, the British Accreditation Registry. I've never, ever in my life seen one piece of evidence that says that's what that stands for. There's no such, I've never seen a British Accreditation Registry anywhere. What I have seen in my own research is barrister, okay, comes from the Knights Templar and the Inner Temple Bar, where they were admitted to, you know, enter the bar. Okay, they're the gatekeepers, the Knights Templars. Okay, so this all goes back to all that shit after coming out of the Roman era, which never died. It just went underground and was passed on to the Pope. So yeah, those guys are the gatekeepers. And that's why at the House of Marcus, for us, it's, look, we're not saying we've got golden goose paperwork or, oh, this paperwork is going to set you free. What we're saying is if we all do and say the same thing at the same time and we take the same steps together as a mass group around the world, not even just here in this country, okay, there's going to be, I am particularly crafting very well thought out steps. It's taken me 2 or 3 years just to write that POA and DOS and have it where I want to. That's why the last final version just came out after 3 years. Now my next step is taking me months and months too, because I want to make sure that what we're doing is foundational, solid, and we're building something new. Because once we get it to a certain point and we've gone to these guys for redress over and over and over, guess what we get to do after that? Declare ourselves free and independent, because they refuse to give us redress. It's the same thing they did in 1776, okay? They said, look, King, here's all the things we asked you to fix and you didn't. We've asked you several times. We've gone over this with you. Enough is enough. We're out. Bam, we're done. Okay, so, but you have to follow the procedure first. You have to follow, hey, I noticed you, I asked you this was specific, and we've got thousands of people that have done the same thing. So guess what? It's clear your system is not working for us. We're going to go start our own. Oh, by the way, since we credited you, give me my damn money back. Because remember, this whole thing is built on, they can't do any of it without you.
They're bankrupt.
They're bankrupt. They need your labor to do everything. They can't do it without you. Now, they can kill off a certain amount of us. I'm sure they have a number in their head. Well, let's kill off 2/3. The rest of the other third will feed us, right? Nope, it's over. That's not happening, because guys like myself, Dave, yourself, Ben, we're learning this stuff, and we have the guts to stand up and say, no, we're not going to do this, but we're not doing it by fighting you. We're doing it with knowledge, because we're smarter than you, because all you guys are robots. All you guys go to colleges and learn, it's right here, where we're coming in learning all of it. So we're much smarter than you, because we have wisdom, we have knowledge, we have balance in our spirit, and we're not here to fight you brother to brother. You are just, I forgive you for you know not what you do, but that doesn't let you off the hook when it comes time for hanging.
Right.
Right. And I don't know when that time is. That's God's time. But
right.
There will come a time where some of these people will pay for that.
Right. Yeah. And
Yeah.
just to echo what you're saying, Rob, is I always talk about the learned elders of the protocols of Zion. Got to listen to that, Ben, if you haven't listened to that.
I'm going to write it down right now.
But
Someone wanted to write that in there, and I'll pin it.
It's if anyone wants to find a very comprehensive playbook of how they plan on taking over the world, whoever they are, I think we have an idea. But there's one quote in the end of protocol number 5. We find a weakness, okay? And it says, there is nothing more dangerous than individual initiative. If it has a touch of genius, Rob, it can accomplish more than 1 million people among whom we have sown dissensions. We must direct the education of the Goy society so that their arms will drop hopelessly when they face every task where initiative is required. They want us to quit. They want us to be confused. They want us to be apathetic. They want us to not have the energy to do it. Just watch the ball game instead, kick up your feet, have a beer, right? But when we have individual initiative, motivation, and genius behind it, there's nothing that can stop us. And they're basically telling us. And this is like a revelation of the method, which is one of their methods of getting consent from us. It's like predictive programming. They say, this is what we're going to do. If you don't, withdraw your consent, then you're agreeing to it. And they're telling us this is very dangerous. So my point is, exactly like Rob is saying, is go get that knowledge, put in the work, and learn just jurisdictionary, learn the concepts that Rob's teaching, take this course, and you're going to come out so much more dangerous to them.
Because you're smart and you have guts. And look, definitions, guys. If you think you know what an affidavit is, I bet you don't read the definition, right? That's what I do. I look at words and I go, well, I think I know what that word means, but let me read the legal definition. And I'm telling you, man, it opens your world up because you learn the language. And that's when you can start talking the language to them and they see it in your eyes and they see that you're fearless. Oh yeah, it scares the shit out of them. But you don't have to be belligerent. You don't have to be angry, rude. You just have to be knowledgeable and show them you're not afraid. And they are scared to death of that. Scared to death, man. It's very powerful.
This is amazing stuff. I tell you, every time I have these conversations with you guys, it's just I'm just getting all jacked up. So just a few things, comments. So if you guys, I have you can contact Dave if you guys are following Dave and ask him the details about this course. He can send it to you so we can get you the link. I have the link in my bio as well for the course. You can sign up free. Rob is not part of this course, but Rob has his own course. He's got his own program on the House of Marcus Fellowship through his link in his bio. And you can follow any of us there just by clicking that arrow right up top there and without having to leave, and you can continue to listen to the conversation. So there's so much here. And I think one of the things that's fascinated me the most with everything we're talking about is how do we use this to fight against the mandates? I don't like to use the word fight. To overcome the mandates, how to sidestep the mandates. And there's an organization called Bonds for the Win. Are you familiar with? Yeah.
I've heard of it. I'm not
I got to get you
super familiar.
She'd love to have you on her.
There was something I saw with that. Anyway.
I might have thrown that out there to you. But anyways, what they're doing is they're going after the surety bonds of the superintendents and the people within the school board, the school district.
Right.
And they're recognizing that through the surety bonds, they're not covered if they break some sort of, I believe it's a constitutional any law, provision, right? Mm-hmm. What was it, Dave? You want to correct me on that?
Well, it's probably if they, because you have to think of these public servants, and if they're on a school board or a superintendent or a county health officer or board of supervisors, these are all public servants. They're supposed to be the trustees that work for us as the beneficiaries. And they've subtly switched it so it's like we think that we have to do what they say. So I think if they break any sort of constitutional provision, because remember the Constitution, even though they throw it out during times of war and emergencies, the Constitution is mainly to keep those public servants in their box. It's not to establish our rights. Our rights come from the Creator. It's to keep them in their box in case they get out of line, which they did during this, whatever.
And now you can address these people as individuals, and they are no longer covered.
They're men and women acting as
women acting as the superintendent, for example.
And they don't have immunity. They can't hide behind their position.
They can't hide anymore. And guess what happened right after Violet in Illinois filed the claim against the man or woman acting as a superintendent? The mask mandates dropped in Illinois days later. And they have them recorded on audio saying, you're not going to be able to get around this. They're speaking in a boardroom. And so it was amazing. And so they dropped it, and it was just a big celebration. And, You know, so there was a big significant win. Now, it doesn't work every time. There's complexities to it, but it is a tool that we're talking about here where we have this power. And it's like, and now this Bonds for the Win, it's called. I think it's bondsforthewin.com. Mickey, who coordinated this, now they have chapters all over, and people are coming together in these states. So it's the same thing. And I'm listening to her podcast, and wow, same stuff that we're learning here from Rob.
Mm-hmm. That's what Rob said. Go. He's gonna, we're getting a process down to go after their, some of them have blanket insurance policies where all the public servants for that, board of supervisors or health department, whatever, they're all under one blanket insurance policy. And sometimes they have indemnity bonds. But bottom line is we have to understand that they are the public servants that work for us. If they step out of line, we are obligated, if we know who we are as men and women, to come in and put them back in their box. Otherwise, we get the society we have now where no one knows who they are, and the public servants are doing whatever they want. And they're doing it to our kids too.
Yep. So these are all tools, okay? The bonds and different ways of going, they're all tools. And they're great. I don't want anybody to get the impression I'm saying that they're not, that they're less than what they are. For me, at the House of Marcus, my thing is, I've been there down these roads. So for me, I want to know what's the root. What's the root? What's the root? What's going to knock all of this out? Because like you said, Ben, you get a hit or a miss. It doesn't work all the time. Well, what does work all the time? Because there is something, and I've never seen anybody crack it unless, well, I shouldn't say that. I know of people that have cracked it, but they're no longer around. You can't find them because they have to go underground. They have to go silent. Because once you crack it, the government comes to you and says, hey, that's awesome. Here's an NDA. Keep all your millions. You can't go out there. You have exemption from everything, but you can't go out there and tell anybody. Well, we're not playing that game, right? I won't, succumb to that. I've had people come to me with millions of dollars that wanted me to work for them, to do stuff, and I won't do it. I'm like, no, you can't pay me enough to do that for you. This is about all of us. It's not about you. Just like the United States. Why do they call it the United States? Us, right? Us. That's why we the people are not you and me. It's us, them. We the people of the United States. It doesn't say we the people of the United States of America. It says we the people of the United States. We the people of us, right? They set this whole thing up, like Dave said, to flip it around so we think that they're the authority. Okay, right. But that's not it. But unfortunately for them, they did set it up so that we're the authority because that's the only way they could do it. And even look, the only document I really appreciate is the Declaration of Independence. Honestly, I think the Constitution's a scam. I think the Articles of I do appreciate the Articles of Confederation. The Northwest Ordinance was a scam, which was scam 1 leading into scam 2, the Constitution. But even if you read the Declaration of Independence, there's propaganda in that. Read it. It says that the savages, they talk about the savages and how they, have a right to do what they're doing. They weren't savage. What are you talking about? It's propaganda. Right. So you can see that there's always been a power behind these governments that set themselves up where you weren't a part of the equation, unless you were just the pawn on the board. That's it. So now we're coming to the new age where we're saying, oh, hell no, we are the heirs to the kingdom of heaven. You guys wrote it in your Bible. We are the heirs. So if we're the heirs, stop giving us this beneficial bullshit. We're the heirs. When they came here to this land and discovered it, do you know what the doctrine of discovery says? It says that we can go to any country or any land on this planet, and if we find that there are no Christians there, we can take their land and allow them use of it because they're not Christians, so they can't have title. Right? Titles. They can't have, yes, that's what the doctrine of discovery says. So they came here, swiped the land out from the natives and said, no, you guys can have use of it, but we're going to own it. Well, where did that come from? Another man. It didn't come from the Bible because the Bible doesn't say that. Christianity doesn't say that. They said, those in control of the narrative of Christianity said that. You see how this works? It's a constant mind control from as far back as you can imagine. It's been a mind control game. So we're coming out of the mind control and saying, you ain't controlling this mind. This mind knows, and I have the eyes to see right through everything that's going on. That's the key. That's why we use Mark 4:11 at the house of Marcus as our, as our Bible passage, because it basically says it is to you to know the secrets, the privacy, right? Within the privacy, you know the secrets. Secret means private. And to everyone else, they see in parables. They don't understand because they're not in the private. They're in the public. So they can only see in parables. They can't understand what the truth is because they only see it in parables. Like the Bible, man, I'm telling you, it's freaking wicked badass, dude. There's so many awesome points of law in that Bible. It's not even funny.
Well, it's the ultimate law book, right? Because
Yep.
the Queen and all these public servants, they swear an oath on the King James Bible.
Yes, on the Bible. And look, the divine right of kings. I mean, look, just Google this stuff, guys. I mean, just research. Divine right of kings says, by the grace of God, I am the king. Well, who the fuck are you? Who the fuck are you? How did you get to be any more spiritually superior or some sort of authority than me? But see, back then, put your mind back there. There wasn't media other than books, and only the elite were able to have books because they were super expensive, right? Only the high class. So again, it's all the same mind control. But now we're at a point where we're like, you're nobody superior to me because I have access to knowledge too. So you see what I mean? This is the whole change. So in the end, we're all going to be good, guys. It's all good. We just have to get there, right? We just have to. And that's why it's important we build something. Let's stop talking about all the shit we're talking about because we know it's going on. Okay. Elon Musk, Ukraine, what do you call it? Losing the court case. You know what I'm talking about.
Just saying Maxwell? Or?
No. Well, that's another one. But no, they kept that one quiet. Johnny Depp.
Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of it either.
Roe versus Wade, right? These are all to distract you so that you guys do nothing but talk about that instead of actually working on something. How many hours a day do people spend on social media talking about the same old shit? Even though I'm awake, I'm talking about this stuff. I'm awake. Well, you're not that awake because you ain't doing shit. You're just talking about it. You're going to seminars where people are constantly talking about it. But when are we going to do something?
Right.
Law for mankind. Get yourself a good base education and start doing something.
Yeah.
House of Marcus is doing something.
Okay, let me that's a good time to reiterate. Law for Mankind is a course that Dave and I, if you're just tuning in, Rob Michael is the person who's been just given this awesome download in the last 5 minutes here. Dave and I are going through this Law for Mankind course, and it's a totally, they're going to be doing a seminar coming up on the 25th. And if you're following Dave, message him. He'll send you the link so you can sign up for it. I've got the link in my bio as well.
It's free.
You can sign up for the totally free course. And there's a free 2-hour module to learn these basic. It talks about all the terminology, and it has couple hours worth of stuff. And that's totally free. And they are going to have a more advanced course coming up, and that's why they're promoting this. But they're giving away the stuff that is truly valuable information that just by going through this, you're going to have a great base. So I've already gone through the extended course, most of it, and I'm learning this stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I could go over this over and over. But there's a group study. It's a 10-week course coming up. So if you really want to deep dive in, and Rob already has the House of Marcus Fellowship, and you guys can check that out anytime. Just go to the link in his bio and check that out. It's a monthly thing. You can come check it out, see if it's for you. Yeah, it's time that we got to roll up our sleeves and kind of figure out like what is, going on out there. And honestly, one thing is I'm realizing I thought I was so intimidated. I didn't think I would get some of this terminology down, but I'm realizing how much like policeman, for example, when you talk about that, like it's policy. The word policy is derived from police.
Enforcer, yeah.
Actually a corporation.
Municipal.
Can you speak to that, like how this is there's a corporation and the United States is also a corporation, and kind of speak to some of these concepts? I think these are fascinating too.
Dave, go ahead. I have a little difference of opinion on as far as the United States, but very slightly. It's still anyway, I'll let Dave go ahead.
Well, I think Rob, you were going to say that the United States is really a trust, right? It's everyone says it's a corporation, but trusts are similar to corporations, but
right.
But yeah, police officers and their black and white cars they go around in with the Masonic symbology. They are policy enforcers, and they enforce statutes and codes, which statutes and codes are for persons. They're not for men and women. So you wonder why they seem like they hate you or they won't defend you. There's some good ones out there, because they're not there to work for you. They work for the corporate structure, which is all of our municipal state governments, our local municipal governments. You really want to deal with the sheriff. The sheriff is the peace officer of the county, and they're an elected official. So they're supposed to be the guy that's going to come in there with the cape on and say, hey, I'm going to defend your constitutional rights and et cetera, natural law, whatever, common law. But all the sheriffs, most of them, besides like Sheriff Mack in Arizona, who's retired now, the sheriffs have pretty much been all threatened, bribed. They're controlled now, just like most of the district attorneys are being controlled by Soros, and they're letting crime just happen. Oh, we got to be easy on these criminals. So the policy enforcers, they're not going to have your back. But you can hold them accountable, which is what this course is teaching. If you know that they're a man behind that, they're a man acting as a policy enforcer, and there's ways to deal with them where you reserve your rights. You don't agree to contract with them if they give you a ticket. There's ways to get out of that. All rights reserved without prejudice, VC, which means I'm signing under duress. And there's ways to autograph your name rather than sign. And there's ways to deal with these people if you know who you are and you know the basic foundations of who you are and what they are.
Yep, completely. And they are corporate. The states, right? This is why I always go to the Dun & Bradstreet, right? Because just go on Dun & Bradstreet, type in state of, and it comes up with their credit profile, which says doing business as the state of California, doing business as the state of Kansas, doing business as, it shows you how much in revenue they have, sales, it shows you how much in sales. Okay, so this is extrinsic evidence. It says, hey, you're operating in a corporate capacity here. So again, there's a lot of evidence to that you can use to your advantage. And Dave's right. The county sheriff is the one who you're supposed to be dealing with. Unfortunately, like Dave said, they're compromised. Sheriff Mack came to my mom's house or my mom's county in Maryland in 2010. 22 or 12 years ago. Okay, and he was there speaking to the sheriff about these foreclosures and everything and how they need to stand up for their people. And you know what the sheriff did? As soon as Sheriff Mack walked out, he didn't give a shit. He came right to my mom's house and took their house anyway and told her, yeah, well, that's good for Sheriff Mack. We don't do that here. Okay, so again, these guys are corrupt, right? They're bought and paid for. And then they turn around and gave my parents' house to another police officer, like totally spit in their face. After my mom had a forensic accounting done and showed that the mortgage and everything was fraudulent because they had already made a couple million off of this $500,000 home, So we're dealing with a large beast here, which is why everybody needs to have some level of knowledge. I'm not saying everybody's got to go out there and be, myself or Dave or you, Ben, or anybody that's really driven to learn this stuff to take it to the highest level, but have some knowledge. Know how to sign your name, like Dave said, know how to operate and answer these people. You don't owe them information for shit. Know what your contracts are. Everything you sign is a contract. Every agreement you make with someone, even if you agree, if I ask Dave to take me to the store and he says, yes, we have a contract, he might add stipulations to that and say, well, you're going to have to give me a bag of oranges for that. Okay, great. No problem, Dave. We have a contract. We have an agreement. Okay, so that's what's happening. They're constantly putting you in agreement that you don't have to agree to. But again, you can't see it if you're not looking for it. And for some of the Bible poo-pooers out there, because I know there's a lot of people that say, oh, the Bible, this and that. Yeah, I get it, right? I've been through all that. I've been through many modalities of spirituality and all. I'm not saying I'm a Christian like you believe I'm a Christian, right? I'm a Christian in the pure sense, which means I know what that Bible's telling me. Sin means you're going into contract. Stop putting yourself in debt. Jesus didn't die so that you would be a good boy. Okay, this man, if this man ever even lived, right? Well, sorry, there was a man, I don't believe his name was Jesus, but there was a guy who did some amazing shit back then, okay? And the point was, he said, no, what you're doing is putting yourself in debt to people. The Bible says straight up, the Lord hates leasing. Stop putting yourself in contract. That's the sin. It's not about drinking alcohol and having sex before marriage. That's not sin, okay? Sin is putting yourself into enslavement under someone else because you're voluntarily signing up for it, all right? Stop doing that. Know the differences. And that's what these courses will teach you.
Right. And it's all contracts. And that's all commerce, contracts and commerce. And it's, do you agree with it, or do you tacitly agree, which would be silence, or do you conditionally accept? I know we've talked about these terms, ways to accept contract offers honorably and dishonorably. And you always just, like, here's a clear example. Here's a clear example. If anyone comes to you with a contract offer of any kind, whether it's a police officer pulling you over, you would say, "Oh, I'm glad to do business with you. If you can show me your statutory authority, if you can show me the constitutional provision or the law that obligates me as a man to do so." So just that simple conditional acceptance, and you could put that in paper too if you're dealing with people who are sending you, stuff in the mail, kind of like the credit card offers. It's just a contract offer. But if you get something from someone else and it's maybe like a legal document, you can, whether you're dealing with the IRS or something, who is a foreign legal corporation, you could say, what's your authority? What contract can you show me? It's just all getting this concept of conditionally accepting any contract offer that comes your way. And then when they cannot provide what you're asking for, now you can put your own provisions like, well, if you can't provide this for me, then you're going to owe me this amount of money in my fee schedule, things like that. So instead of them administering us and trying to take money from us all the time, we can say, I know who I am. I'm going to conditionally accept. And then when you can't provide what I'm asking for, now you're agreeing to my fee schedule. And they're going to leave you alone real quick. Because
they know you know who you are. And
that's all this course is teaching.
Yep. And I mean, Dave is 100% right, man. It's about that first response. It really is. I've gotten rid of, I can't tell you how many issues by one letter in the very first response, by doing just what Dave was telling you. Go ahead, Ben. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I trust me. I want to give you the floor as much as as much as I can. But one of the things that we're learning in this course is the foundation of it. It's actually a very amazing course that you're learning about your true self. Because what they talk about is, who are you? Like, who ultimately are you? It's a spiritual journey on this course. That's not even an exaggeration, because the whole foundation is I'm a man, woman, versus I am a citizen, a doctor, an accountant, a teacher, whatever, and having these titles, having these hues of a man, these different variations of man, right? And the idea, when you start to learn that I am just man, I am, and then you recognize, you start to get grounded in knowing who you are as yourself in the private, and all these other aspects are in the public, that you get lost in these titles, you get lost in this show. And so this course literally brings you exercises to recognize where your mental blocks are, where your limitations and wounds from the past are. So you start to realign your being as a pure man or woman in the essence of what it's intended to be. So they truly bounce back and forth between this inner development and how this applies to law versus the legal system. So it's fascinating. And that's one of my favorite aspects of it. Dave, you're going to say something?
Well, and the evidence for that is that if you look at the statutes, the codes, all these thousands of laws they always apply to persons. They don't apply to men and women. So that should tell you something right there. That should be the evidence that if someone comes with a claim against you and says you did this, or you broke this law, then you could do the conditional acceptance and say, can you show me where that applies to a man or a woman? Mm-hmm. And it also reminds me of when we're going through indoctrination school, public school. How many times do they teach you to what you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a fireman. I want to be a lawyer. I want to be a police officer. I want to do all these titles. Mm-hmm. They're teaching you to take that step down so everyone has jurisdiction over you. The whole game is rigged.
But what do they tell you? First, middle, last name. First, middle, last name. There's no such thing as a first, middle, last name for a living being in the law. We can go right to American jurisprudence on my wall and we can study names, okay? The whole entire legal encyclopedia on the subject of names. And nowhere in there does it say anything about a first, middle, and last name. You have a given Christian name, is what they call it, and you have a family surname. But you don't have a first, middle, last. Only things and objects have, and tangible and intangible property have first, middle, last names or multiple names, right? Part of the hijinks, just like Dave said, they'll teach you this in school, first, middle, last, first, middle, last. So you'll never question, wait a minute, I don't have a first, middle, last name. I have a Christian given and a family name. And we've held up courtrooms just on that, Please state your name for the record. My name's Robert Michael. Is Michael your last name? It's the last name I was given. Well, is that on your license? I don't have a license. And they can't lock you into jurisdiction because they can't tie you into the name that they need you to be. So they're screwed at that point because now you've showed up, they got a man in their courtroom, but they don't know, they can't, they're stuck moving forward because, well, who's here for the person, right?
Right.
And they will override you sometimes and
Robin, I'm sure many people here have not heard your story about the courtroom. And then you had mentioned a while back, and boy, the hour flew by like nothing.
Takes a while.
Yeah, but but when you were in the courtroom, if you want to share a story or two, or elaborate what you're working on now, because I'm actually would love to hear some highlights again, because I'm seeing this from a different perspective now after kind of going through this course.
Well, yeah, if you go to my YouTube at House of Marcus on YouTube, Markus, you'll see that, or you'll hear there's two cases on there. One where I was in federal court in 2013, and the other where I was in state court getting a car back that they confiscated from a guy that had his own tags, own license, and everything that we put into a trust. So so I was going into courtrooms on behalf of people because, just like you guys, I was learning, but it wasn't enough to just learn. I had to apply. I had to go see with my own eyes. I had to take my theory, my legal theory, into court and see, does this, and using, well, not that seal, but the seal of St. Peter with the cross keys and the Vatican triple TR and everything, and saying, no, that's your boss, and I'm their boss. That's what I would tell them in court. The Vatican is your boss because everything is under that law. I am their boss. Because the Pope is a servant to the servants of God, and I serve God as an heir. So guess what? He serves me. So, and they would freak out, man. They would freak. So I would take these people into a courtroom. I'd take people that needed help. Hey, anybody need help? Let's give this a try. Okay, yeah, I'm willing to volunteer. They would come in, whether it was, quasi-criminal, credit card, civil, that kind of thing. And we would bring a jury of people, usually 12 or more. Right? I said, I want 12 people, no less. So we'd go in and I'd play the role. I dressed up because it's all a show. If you've ever been in a courtroom, and let me back up. If you've ever been in handcuffs and walked into a courtroom from the jail, okay, they bring you through this very sanitized, institutional looking hallway of nothing but white concrete. And then they open the door for you to enter as a criminal. And it's colorful, and there's lights and people bustling everywhere. It's not this institutionalized insane asylum. It's a fucking show. The whole thing is a show. That's why they practice, right? They practice what they're going to do at the show on the stage when they apply the Shakespearean acts of Congress. That's all this is. It's a story. So I learned that early on. Isn't it, Dave? I'm telling you, that's exactly how it is. So I would dress the part and I'd create the story. Oh, you want to, get on a stage? I'll get on. I'm Leo. Leos love the stage. I'll get right on there. So I would dress up. Yeah, that's why. See, two birds of a feather. So I would.
When's
I
your
would
birthday, Rob? When's your birthday? Sorry.
August 21st.
Okay, I'm 11. Or 9th. I don't even know my birthday.
Yeah.
9th.
21st. I'm a 11, 22, 33 in my birth date, man. I got all three
Wow.
master numbers. Yeah, it's crazy, insane. The energy. But anyway, so I would go in and I'd play this role. And yeah, it fucked them up. Like the court didn't know what to do. The judge would focus on me. And, you know, he would say, well, sir, you need to have a license to practice law. And I'd say, well, I'm not practicing any rules, codes, statutes, policies, procedures, ordinances, or anything like that. So I don't think I need a license for anything. This is a public hearing. And as a matter of fact, to my knowledge, there is no license to practice law. That's a misnomer. There's only a membership dues card. Does that guy over there prosecuting this case have a license? And if he does, can he please show that it was administered by the Secretary of State? Fucking crickets, right? Nothing. The court, you could hear a pin drop and the judge is like, and I'm like, yeah, where's your license to practice law now? Right? And the judge is like, sir, you can't be in this courtroom. Yes, I can. It's a public courtroom. Well, you need to have a license. I'm not an attorney. I don't need shit. I'm their counsel, which means if they have a question, they can turn around and ask me. I'll give them my opinion because I don't give legal advice, and they will speak to you and make the decision. Now, I suggest you stop speaking to me and you speak to them. And of course, the judge is like, oh, I don't know what to do because nobody's ever came in there and not been afraid of him, you know. This is how I would do it to test these theories. And I'm telling you, man, they shit bricks. They didn't know what to do. They tried to have me arrested, but they couldn't because I would stop them. They'd say, well, we're going to have to take you into custody. And I'd say, well, you're going to have to prove an injured party before you do that, or I'm going to hold you liable as a man, like we're talking about. Can you please have a seat? Oh, we're going to take a quick recess. And the judge would jump off the bench. He'd run in the back of the courtroom through this door that's hidden in the wall. The wall would pop open. He'd run through the back. Then he'd come back out with books and Post-it notes, and you know he's trying to figure stuff out. And I would say, "Look, this is not the time to study the law. Like we need to get this case moving here, you know." And again, he's like, all right. Well, can you have a seat?" I mean, he said 3 times this one judge ran out, 3 times. Okay, and when he came back into the courtroom, the only thing they could come up with was to bully me out of there by having they loaded the courtroom, man. All of a sudden, like 10 to 15, I don't know how many it was, but it was definitely like up around 10 at the least, to 15 of these, sheriff's deputies and stuff. And marshals came into the courtroom and surrounded me, but none of them would touch me. They just barked at me and created this big scene and yelled in my face, you know, and I told them, don't touch me, man. Don't touch me. You know, and they wouldn't. They just yelled me out the door. Because at that point, I was like, all right, look, this is getting out of hand. Like, it's time for me to leave, you know. So I would just back out of the courtroom and ask my people, come with me. And they would come with me. I don't consent. I'm going with him. And they couldn't proceed forward.
So okay, so the way I understand it, so you're bringing them into the private. This is your court. You have the right as a man to go into a courtroom, have either a magistrate, a judge, or a jury, and present this trial based on what you choose, correct? So
yeah. So remember now, this is going back almost 10 years ago. Yeah, about 10 years ago. So it's a little different climate then. Like there wasn't as many people doing this back then as there is now. So that was one thing to my advantage. But the other thing was, yes, essentially what I was doing is going in and saying, this is our court in your courtroom. So we have 2 courts running here. We got our court and we got your court. And our court is the higher court. And we're saying this. So I was testing that theory. And it did ruffle feathers. But was it an effective way to do this? No. And I wouldn't recommend people do that today because it's not really effective. But, I mean, it did have effect. But it's not the way to go. Just put it together. You're going to cause more harm than good. But what it did was it showed us that they're afraid. They're very afraid. And they know that we know. And that was all the evidence I needed to push forward. So we did that a handful of times. And then I said, all right, enough's enough. And then I got arrested later for, you know, going in and handing these guys their lunch. So they created a story because I didn't break any laws. So they had to create something that a law that I broke out of thin air somewhere, out of a state I'd never been to. And that's what they arrested me on. But I beat that too with a birth certificate. So no criminal charges.
Wow. This is great, Dave. You must have so many different things going through your head here. So,
Well, just that a birth certificate is our exemption. And, you know, if you think of a lot of the freedom patriot movement, there is some of them say, oh, we don't do none of that birth certificate stuff. But the birth certificate is actually it's a evidence of it's security, right? It's evidence that there is a trust created in our name, our legal, name, and someone's making money off it. And I think it's important that we understand that the birth certificate is not something that is something that it can be used against us. It's just we haven't realized how to utilize it yet.
Yes,
and
we're
are
getting there.
We're getting there.
So think of it this way. Okay, the government's obligations. The Federal Reserve issues dollar bills to the government. That's an obligation of the government, meaning they're in debt to the Federal Reserve. Right. The registrar, of the state, who is a corporate state, issues you a certificate, that is backed by the faith and credit of the government. They're in debt to you. It's the same transaction. That certificate is valuable, just like a dollar bill is valuable. Why do you think it looks like it's got dollar bill decoration around it, right? Look at a dollar bill in the birth certificate. It's got the same little decoration detail on it. Mm-hmm. Same thing. That's their obligation to you.
Well,
Hold on,
what do you mean that's their obligation?
The sun's coming in. Hold on.
An obligation, if you look up the United States Code, if you look up the Federal Reserve Act, it says, this goes into taxes, that Federal Reserve notes are obligations of the United States. And obligations are not, they also say that obligations are not taxable.
Obligations, yes, government obligations are not taxable. They're government debts.
Why are people paying taxes then if it's all just
can we
debt?
go there? I don't think there's a soul in this live who wouldn't be curious about the opportunity, because there is an option. They talk about it in the course that Dave and I are going through about saying how to lawfully not be paying taxes, because
that's easy.
Okay.
That's an easy one. I mean, look, there's no law, especially in this country, right? In the United States of America, there is no law in the tax code, subtitle A, which is where you will find the liability for paying the income tax. All it says is income is taxable. It doesn't say who's liable to pay it unless it's the withholding agent, or some people use the non-resident alien. They're taxable too. A U.S. citizen, even though it's different than an American citizen, either of those they're not listed in there. There's no liability clause to pay the income tax. There's none. Now somebody just put in there, but why did they garnish your wages? Because you signed the contract. Mm-hmm. You signed the 1040 form. You did your taxes the year before. You entered into contract. You filled out the paper, the W-2 or the W-4, the W-9. That's why they came, because you already agreed. That's Indian giving. Remember we were kids? They said, well, don't be an Indian giver. Mm-hmm. Don't be an Indian giver. Stop telling them you're going to give them something and then take it away. That's what you're doing when you fill out tax paperwork. So the law says, as long as you're not going to incur any tax liability, this year or the previous year that you didn't incur any tax liability, and you put that in a certificate, which means an affidavit. That's all an affidavit is a certification of the truth. You are not liable to pay the income tax, and the withholding agent cannot withhold the taxes. So again, simple affidavit in lieu of a W-4 that basically says, I do not anticipate I have not incurred any tax liability last year, and I do not plan on incurring any this year. Bam, done. Now, if you want me to fill out a form, sir, for your organization, your business as an employee, I'm going to need 3 criteria from you under the federal tax law. Just look it up. It's disclosure of Social Security number. Federal law. I think it's paragraph 7 of the I think it's the Privacy Act. They need to tell you everything it's going to be used for, whether it's voluntary or mandatory to give it to them, and by what law they are using to solicit it from you. They need to give you 3 criteria before you put your information on that tax form. They have to, but people don't know this. So we've had people go in with the documents I wrote for their taxes and give it to their employer and immediately stop state and federal taxes from being withheld. Then they turn around and basically gave them a revocation of election and have not paid an income tax since and have not been bothered. I don't get into 1099. Somebody's putting up 1099s. I don't do that shit because all you're doing is asking to play their game. And so I don't do that. Anyway, those of you that have not filled out paper, if you're self-employed, it's much easier because you don't get stopped by your employer. Now, I'm not saying all employers are just going to let you go. Many have, many haven't. Doesn't mean you don't have the right to do it. It means you're kind of stuck because you're employed by someone. Self-employed people, you don't need to pay any tax. There's no income tax. And you're not even getting income. You're getting capital. Capital is not taxable. So, business owners, what do you own? What kind of business, right? Business owners, you're not taxable either if you have an LLC or you have a corporation, an S Corp especially, not really a C Corp, but an S Corp, because the money is not taxable until it goes from your shares, right? Or from your percentage of the profits into your personal bank account. That's when it's taxable. So if you set up a trust to own the S Corp, all the shares of the S Corp, or a trust to own 100% of the LLC, not you, and the money goes into the trust and the trust reinvests it, that's nobody's business but the trust, there's no tax on that. There's no tax on that. It didn't go to you. It didn't go to your account. It's not income. It's capital. So there's very straightforward ways of tax avoidance, which is 100% legal and all the elite do it. It's tax evasion that's not legal.
Okay, so I think a lot of people say, this sounds great. What if I mess it up? What if I file it wrong?
There's no filing.
What if I get caught because they said you thought you could do this, but you actually can't in our book, and we're going to challenge it?
You better be knowledgeable and know how to back it up. And there's no one that could do that for you but you. That's why at the House of Marcus, we're trying to get people to understand these intricacies.
Yeah.
But do you guys work as teams saying, hey, I filed it. Did anyone else file it? And like you working together as a team?
You got a hole in the community forum. Just go there. And if there's not a thread on it already, start one and everyone will jump in and tell you what they've done.
Yeah. So let me chime in. So I filed the last few years utilizing lawful money redemption. Okay. And I'll tell you what that is in a second, but I actually found a way to improve my process by getting a tip from someone at the House of Marcus Fellowship, who's someone who I'm really messaging like a lot now. And I found a way to not evade taxes and to just let them know that that you're not required to pay. And I'm doing it in a way that I can get bank loans too. So that's important because if you want to be able to buy property and everything and get a new car loan, etc., you want to be able to have your tax returns in a way that says, oh, this guy makes money and he doesn't have a loss.
Right.
Because the way I've been doing it the last few years, lawful money redemption, is you look at the hashtag lawful money redemption. It's basically saying that 12 USC section 411 says, Federal Reserve notes shall be redeemed in lawful money on demand at any Federal Reserve Bank or the Treasury. Now, what that says is and then you look up the definition of what a Federal Reserve note is. Again, going back to definitions, like this course is teaching, and what Rob is big on is what is the definition. It says in the code that a Federal Reserve note is an obligation of the United States. It's a debt. It also says obligations are not taxable. Debt is not taxable. If you're getting paid in Federal Reserve notes, you're getting paid in debt. IOUs are not taxable. So someone asked earlier, what do you do when they just withhold, the state and Fed just takes your money, they withhold from your paychecks. You file your taxes using lawful money redemption, and you get those withholdings back. All lawful money redemption is getting back which was seized from you unlawfully.
Yep. And a tip on that, if you're going to go that route, which is very powerful, for you guys out there that have personal bank accounts, make sure you change that bank account to non-interest bearing. Stop getting interest on that account. Just call your bank and say, hey, I want to change it to non-interest bearing. What they're doing is giving you a penny a month so that they can come in and do what they want to your account. You'd be surprised how much more power you have over as being a holder of that account when they're not interested in it. Giving them interest is giving them a right. Interest is a right. When you get interest on a bank account, you've given the government a right to come into it.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
so
crazy.
Just get rid of the interest and get rid of your savings accounts. Just use checking. Because people go, oh, well, it's a savings account. What's the difference? The only difference is you write checks out of one.
Yeah.
Right.
So guys, you know what? Without leaving, you can click the top arrow right here, and you can follow follow us all in the group here. Rob Michael has been houseofmarcus.org. Is that correct with your site?
Yep. M-A-R-K-U-S.
M-A-R-K-U-S. So he's got an entire group study where you come in like just a library of data, knowledge, information, and the team working together.
Can I explain? Because a lot of people don't understand what we have there. So we have a document library that you can search tags. You can put the word beginner in there and beginner stuff comes up. We have a video library of what I do, right, on these videos and how I explain stuff. Again, you could type beginner, you type trust stuff comes up. Constitutional stuff comes up. And you can sit there all day and read and watch until your heart's content. Then we have the forum, which is the community where all these guys are doing their homework and they're all helping each other. And we get thousands a day of views and comments. Now, this is all on our private server, by the way. This is not on any outside anything. We built everything from code. It's on our servers. It's nobody else's. So when you come in for $33 a month, you get all that. You get to the community, and everybody in there is helping each other. We have thousands of views a day, and no one has argued.
No one arguing. It's all good.
Not one time has anybody argued and called somebody stupid or something. We had one little incident last week that was close to that, and we nipped it in the bud real quick. We're not doing that here. Then you get my document templates, right? Whatever I put up, which is very basic stuff. Well, it's not really. The POA and DOS, somebody was like, dude, this is an art. This is a piece of art. You know?
I'm stuck on there, Rob. I need you to do another video. I'm stuck on the 16th page. I need you to do another video that says, all right, when you get here, this is what you do. Those videos help me tremendously.
Then I'm going to do that because I've been so caught up with the lawsuit and everything that I haven't focused much on doing that. So I'm going to get back to the site and really start, putting more detail in. That's the other thing. We're going to we are constantly adding content, whether it's a video, an article, something. We're always adding something. And for $33 a month, I'm thinking, man, why aren't more people doing this, right? Because we need to come together as a community to do it, right? To do it. And 33, because that's my life path number, and it's a very spiritual number. Somebody asked why 33.
Yeah.
So I like to set all my prices and everything so they equal 11, 22, or 33 for very spiritual reasons to help us ascend this thing faster. So anyway, that's why we use it. But that's the House of Marcus. It's a community, essentially.
You know what? And also, Dave and I, and Dave's taught me a lot. I'm the new kid on the block here, but I joined this Law for Mankind course, and I signed up for this about 9 months ago, and then I was amazed by the content in there, and now this is going to be given away free. This 2.5-hour course. And we're also, Greg Paul, who created this course, is also going to be doing a live Q&A coming up in 2 weeks. So if you guys are following Dave, send him
25th.
a message. He will send you the link so you guys can get hooked up into this course and get this free Q&A and then get the free course. If you're following me, just go to the link in my bio and you can just sign up there, and we'll get you the course and the Q&A there as well. because I'm going through this again, and there's an extended course coming up that we're helping to get the word out on. And
can I add to that?
Yeah, please.
Ben? If you're thinking about coming over to the House of Marcus, I definitely would suggest Law for Mankind if you're new to this, because you're going to need that background to really help you when you get over to House of Marcus. And, you know, we're trying to build in a lot of beginner type stuff too, but they have a really good, robust system and way of explaining this stuff that's excellent for beginners. So I highly recommend, and I don't endorse a lot of people out there. I really don't.
Yeah.
For various reasons, but I haven't been through their whole course, but I vetted parts of it to see what they were doing because I was invited to. And yeah, I love it. I think they did an excellent job. So if you guys are new and you want to get started, please listen to these guys and do the Law for Mankind. It's very important.
Rob, it means a lot for you too. You know, you've got your own thing, and it's just another of so many confirmations to show that this has nothing to do about the money for you. I mean, you exude truth and integrity every time you come on here and talk, and every time I've had a direct conversation with you. So it's like,
thank you.
Thank you for helping us to get the word out on this program, because, you know, we're going to be doing this extended course, and Dave and I are going to jump into the extended course when that one starts in June. And we're going to take a deep dive into that as well. You know, but this initial course gives you the foundation of the terminology. It gives you the idea of what's private versus public. And it's really that clarity that just, oh my God, I have in 2 hours just learned 10 times more than I knew at all. And now, what I kept thinking about is after I took the first module course, the free one, I was like, I can't wait to go back on with Rob and like hear him again, because I think I'm going to understand what he's talking about.
You will. You will. You'll pick up a lot more.
And I did. Yep. I understood so much more than I usually do. A little less here in the headlights this time. So yeah. How about we've been out for an hour and a half. I mean, I could go all night, but I have a feeling that you both have things to do.
Hey man, I'm on a 24-hour dry fast right now, so you're helping me get to my 24-hour period, man.
Okay.
I got till 8 o'clock and I'm eating watermelon. It is tough, dude.
Yeah, it's hard.
I've had a headache all day, so I know I'm detoxing. I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And it's actually starting to go away. So I don't know what you guys are doing, but
you know, that's good vibes.
It's great.
So do you want to answer some questions? We've got a handful of questions people threw out there. Do you have a little bit more time then? You guys?
It's up to you guys. I got time. If Dave's got time, I'm here.
I got a little time.
Okay. All right. We'll knock out a few questions. And then a few people asked, "Are we saving this?" Yes, we were going to save it. So we avoided talking about anything. This is not legal or financial advice. Everybody, just want to clarify
or tax
that.
Advice. No taxes. We don't do that either.
No tax advice. Nothing at all.
Right.
This is just for educational and
entertainment
purposes only.
That's right.
Okay. Cool. How does this pertain? Everything we're talking about. So I saw something really interesting, and they talked about common law, civil law, Muslim law, and there was one other, like 4 primary laws, or like universal.
Sharia
law, that was it.
Yeah.
How does common law compare to civil law, and what do we fall under in essence?
Well, I got my opinions on that for sure.
I'm all ears.
Well, so I always go back to the beginning of things, right? Where did the common law start? It started at 1215. Right, with the nobles who were upset with the king. It started with the Magna Carta.
Magna Carta.
They put the swords of the king's throat and they said, you sign this. So to me, how can we turn around and say, well, you're making me sign this under threat and duress, but I'm under common law, which was signed under threat and duress. Mm-hmm. So that's how I look at it. That's one thing. But for the sake of the conversation, so they let this play out. And if you notice, right around that time, all of a sudden equity law came up and the bishops were responsible for bringing in the equity law. Always the church. They're always in the background, right? Steering everything. Equity is a very powerful law structure because it provided remedy where the common law didn't.
Right.
It wasn't as rigid, okay? So in this country, when they brought the common law here, they brought common law and equity. However, in 1938, after the slaughterhouse cases, they merged common law and equity into one form of action, the civil action. And they did this in the Judicature Act in England several years before, and they did it in Canada and all the other common law countries. They merged the common law and equity and civil into civil law, right? So is it still there? Yes. But when you go into a courtroom, there's no line of where equity and common law starts and stops. So take my case, for example, traffic case, got pulled over, went to court, they had an arraignment, all that. They have a pretrial conference. That's to handle the equities. Are the equities settled? If the equities aren't settled, we can't go to trial. Trial is common law. They bring you into equity first, and then they bring you into common law in a criminal matter, and then they bring you into common law.
Real quick, elaborate on equity.
So, go ahead, Dave.
Oh, my understanding of equity was whenever there was a court case or a ruling in the common law courts, but they didn't actually get the right. They didn't get it right, or they needed to find remedy another way. It was equity was kind of another recourse, another way of saying, listen, this guy he's been harmed. You know, the court didn't take care of it, so through equity we're going to remedy this. It was just whatever the court kind of didn't complete, was my understanding. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. That's when they applied it, because the common law was too rigid and couldn't provide a remedy.
Right.
However, in more depth of that, the equity law, if you Google or research uslegal.com, US legal definition of equity, it comes up with several listings of things, one of them which is God's law, okay? Natural law.
Yeah.
Equity. So the bishops came in and said, no. While this may be contractually the right way to go, because, one neighbor took the other neighbor's cow, made some milk off it, and then the cow died. The common law, let's say, would only allow the guy to get some money back for the milk that was made, but no remedy for the cow that died. Now he can't produce anything further because he's down one cow. Equity would come in and say, no, that's not right. I'm the judge. I'm the one with the king's conscience. I'm the one with the, God's conscience here. So in good conscience, you, sir, have to get this man another cow. And they could create the remedy, and that was equity. Okay, so there's 20 maxims of equity, and there's hundreds in the legal world, but there's only 20 in equity. So equity is a very powerful structure of law. But that's why they wanted to blend them here, so that no attorney knows the lines between equity and common. They just know court procedure and process, which is a blending and a mishmash of both. Equity does not have criminal law, only common law does. But because they're dealing in your birth registration, social security account, and all that stuff, when you first get arrested for a crime and they bring you into court, that's all equity first, because they're not bringing you in. They're bringing in the person, right? Just like all the stuff we've been talking about. So they're bringing in the equity first, the equitable part. Now, if there's no resolution there, they can't go to trial. They have to resolve the issues. Then they go to trial, which is now common law. So that's why I say the whole system right now is civil law. It says in the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, there shall be one form of action, the civil action, and every state has modeled their court rules after it. That's why when I wrote the POA and DOS, I said, this is a declaration of status, property, and obligation, because the civil law has three departments: status, property, and obligation. So every freaking law that they've written out there and all these statutes and codes fit in one or more of those categories, and no more than that: property, status, and obligation. What's your property? What's your status? And what obligation do you have to another? That's the entire law system here and in other countries, believe it or not. So if you want to simplify it,
yeah, it all comes down to like natural law is about property, right? And it's moral law, God's law. But then you look at, so that's one part. And then what's your status in relation to that property? Are you a person? Are you a corporation? It's kind of like jurisdiction, right? So there's property. What's your relation to that? And then obligation is what, remember we talked about with the U.S. Code?
Sorry,
It's a
guys.
Federal Reserve note. It's an obligation. Federal Reserve note is an obligation or a debt. So it's about commerce, basically. It's about property, your relation to that property, and then what are you obligated to do as far as like, what's your debt? Are you a debtor? Are you a creditor? You know, the whole thing is, you know, to make it simple, is what is Roman civil law? It's about property, your relation to it. Are you a debtor? Do you know who you are as a man or a woman? And so for me, those three tenets of civil law are rolling up to natural law, which is about property rights of sentient beings. All sentient beings that roam the earth have an unalienable right to defend their property. So we're just clarifying in Roman civil law with these three, with Rob's POA and DOS, what we are in these three buckets.
Right. So the reason I wrote the power of attorney was so that we could get this recorded on the county land records. So it's a power of attorney with a declaration of status attached to it. And two other affidavits: born again, which is saying I'm now born into the Spirit, like the Bible says. All right. People call it reborn. It's not reborn. It's a second birth. The Bible doesn't say you were reborn. You were born once into the sin, into the debt, into the illusion of the material world, thinking this is what I need. But once you become spiritually awake, now you're born again. See, that's what born again means, right? So we did an affidavit, born again affidavit. I'm awake now. Now this illusion that you guys pulled over my eyes all these years doesn't apply. Because I'm awake, I'm born again. I'm a Christian, right? In a way, and I'm a Christian in a way that Christians hate. That's the funny thing. The Christians who are supposed to love everybody hate the fact that I'm a Christian and say that I'm a Christian, right? Because they're not Christians, they're liars is what they are. So
I prefer early Christian or the Essene way.
There you go. The Essene, yeah. So then I do the declaration of status, property, and obligation, which is saying, look, because I'm awake, I'm handling all of this in this whole next document of 20 pages, whatever it is. And then I close it by attaching another affidavit called the Affidavit of Public Ministry. Now that I have come of age, not the age of majority, but the age of discretion, which means I'm knowledgeable enough to handle my business. That's what the age of discretion means. I can now go out to the world and minister this, because the Bible says you don't need to go through some church's ordination to be a minister. God made you a minister because you tell the truth. So we close it with that, and that's my record that I put into the public, and that's my evidential documents. When I serve any agency, they get a copy of that. Hey, by the way, here's who I am. It's on the record. Now you're noticed, right? I've taken care of the three departments of civil law under natural law, God's law. And I pulled them all in equity and common law. They're all pulled together. So I took the whole thing and mashed it up.
Wow. And now we got to get it recorded, and people are getting pushback from the clerk recorder. They'll have a variety of different excuses, but when I get to that point, it sounds like they're either going to accept it or they won't. And if they don't, you have to go to another one. You have to find another county rather than just wasting all your time. But some will, some won't.
Yeah, here's what we're going to start doing. I know we got far away from the question, but here's what we're going to start doing, though, Dave. We're building, just like, you know, Anna von Ritz and these other people, they have their online records. We're going to do the same thing for that reason. As long as you have an online records base, that is recognized by the court as public notice, as long as you're posting it somewhere on an internet site. So we're going to have, what we're going to do is all of our members who are doing the same, and the reason we're taking these same steps is so important. Everybody's doing the same thing. We're going to remedy that situation, Dave, by putting them on our website. We're going to have a public records where we'll issue you a badge, not an ID. We don't want to get into that bullshit, right? With the terminology and the titles, an ID, a badge that'll have your documents on it with a QR code that you can hand to anyone and go, here's my public notice. You've now been noticed, and it has all your documents on it. We're going to be creating notices that we're going to send out to every head of state. I'm going to create a notice campaign. Guys, this is how you notice, and here's who you should target first, and then start hitting everybody, every state, over time as you have money and time to do it. So then we build the notice campaign. And what you do with that is after you've noticed and it's been delivered, you take your evidence, you scan it in, and you upload it into your House of Marcus Fellowship community file. That's public record that if anybody fucks with you, you go scan this QR code because your office has been notified. You've been notified.
So this will be in addition to recording with the clerk recorder, land recorder.
Yeah, well, next thing is notice, right? So that's constructive notice. Well, no, you won't have to record. If once we have it on the website, you won't have to.
You won't have to go there. Okay, got it.
I mean, it's good too if you can, because to have it in the land records is very powerful because you can get their seal on it, which is a powerful piece of evidence. So I would still suggest that people can get it done to do it. But for those that can't, we'll have our public record system. And regardless, everyone in the House of Marcus community should be putting them on the public record system that we create anyway. Because then we're going to the Shem Society. That's another organization. House of Marcus is a bridge. We have our church, which you guys probably haven't been to. It's called, well, Dave probably has, divinecreation.org. That's my church, Unity of Divine Creation. That's our spiritual side. Then we go to House of Marcus and we learn the bridge between the spirit and the material. We handle that, and then we form our own society under God, which is the Shem Society. Once all our documents are in place, now we're an actual society. We've all agreed this is how we're going to function and treat each other in this society. And we have our own system of dispute resolution. So the House of Marcus has its own system of dispute resolution, which means if me and Dave get into a dispute about something, or because I'm the House of Marcus, and he says, you know what, fuck the House of Marcus. Like, let's say he has a peeve about it, right? Not that he ever would, of course. Let's just say we have it in your membership agreement you've signed to follow our dispute resolution process. What does that do? That means if Dave tries to take me to court and say, no, the House of Marcus, I'm suing them, I go, well, wait a minute, Dave signed a membership agreement that has a dispute process in it. The judge is going to go, well, Dave, you're going to have to go through that dispute process and come back to me and let me know what they say. Because whatever they say, I have to enforce. I have no dog in this fight. The state cannot step into our private business ever. And that's why we're setting this up to get to the Shem Society, which the seal is back there.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Holy cow. This is, I didn't realize. I'm signing up, man, to your site tonight. I got to get in there, bro. I'm way overdue on this. You know, I'm done tiptoeing around. I got to just dive in and get into it. There's been a lot of questions. I want to just address a few things. So there's two separate things that we're talking about today in terms of, like, I mean, there's a million things we're talking about, but Rob, who just, the Jedi in the bottom left corner, at least from my perspective, he's the law Jedi, and he basically, he has the House of Marcus, houseofmarcus.org. You can follow everybody here just by clicking that arrow without having to leave the live, and go check out Rob's stuff that he was just talking about. Dave and I are promoting our friend's course called Greg Paul. It's called The Law for Mankind. And this is a free 2.5-hour course. It's normally $79. Somebody just asked, isn't it $79? It is, but it's going to be free, and it's going to be given away in 2 weeks right after the free Q&A that comes up on the 25th. So if you guys want to take this free Q&A, it's going to be a similar discussion like today, how we're talking about some of the foundations of law and the most commonly asked questions. And that's going to be on the 25th. So if you guys want to attend that, just go to DM Dave if you're following Dave, and you can go straight to his, or ask him. He'll send you a link directly so you can get to get that, sign up for that course. And once you're signed up, you're going to get already a notification within a couple weeks. I'm sorry, once you sign up for the Q&A, you're going to get an email. They're going to send you the free course 2 weeks from now. So you're not going to get it yet, because they want people to go through the Q&A to understand it, and then they're going to give you that free course. And then if you guys are interested in it, they are doing a promotion for a larger course,
right?
Which is going to be a 10-week course, which Dave and I are going. I've been speaking for you, Dave, but I'm going through it as well, and it's phenomenal. It goes so deep dive. It's going to be like over 20 hours worth of conversations, groups. So we've got all that going on. So two separate things, but you know, for me, this is time for me to finally go a little bit deeper to get the understanding, because this isn't going away. And Rob, what you just told me here a second ago, man, we need to have a whole conversation on just what you're doing, because I didn't realize you're forming. Is this like, it's not a PMA, but what is this structure that you're forming here? That
we're forming, honestly, we're forming the new governance system.
Jesus.
And whoever wants to be part of it is welcome.
Unincorporated association.
Unincorporated, yeah. And we're forming it based on trust and God's law. So we use the Bible, which may turn a lot of people off, but that's because they're not understanding. That's how we're going to exit. So again, I want to clarify what Ben was just saying. Law for Mankind is separate from House of Marcus. Law for Mankind is excellent for you guys that are looking to learn this stuff. I promote that, and I don't promote it. You can ask these guys behind the scenes. I don't promote anybody.
No, he doesn't.
I don't, because I've seen these guys out there before, and I know what they're doing. And to me, it's all whacking branches off of the tree, but never really digging it up from the root. But Law for Mankind is right in alignment with what House of Marcus is doing and where we're going. And it's a great preparatory course. And not that, I mean, you can become a House of Marcus member at the same time as well. It's only $33 a month to become a member. It's not like it's astronomical. And you can cancel at any time. There's no 6 months up front. No, it's just start, stop, you know?
Yep, I canceled already. I joined House of Marcus a while back, and then I wasn't ready, and then I canceled it. Rob, like, canceled it that day. And I'm going to take on a role of, like, helping Rob a little bit more. But he's already got a nice team that works for him. Fully endorse House of Marcus. It's a great resource to utilize. And just to reiterate the Law for Mankind, let me make sure I have this right. So live Q&A on the 25th. Mm-hmm. That's free.
Sign up now.
Sign up now. I can send you a link. Now, after that, on the 25th, after you realize that there's something here and I'm going to find some value in this, there's going to be a free, smaller course that you can get. But there's a bigger, longer course that you can actually get a discount on, right? If you want to get that larger course that you and I are taking, you can get a discount at that point. I think for a couple weeks, you can get it like hugely discounted if you want to take the whole thing like Ben and I are doing. Do I have that right?
And no pressure. It's like it's a zero pressure thing, because you do get a free 2.5-hour course that gives you the foundation, the fundamentals, the terminology that will get you started. And then it's a $79 course. They're giving that away for free. Right. And then if you decide you want to take that $800 course, they're giving it away for $500. You get it for $500 instead. But it's like a 10-week course. You get like group study. You get like, it's like robust, you know. So that's what they're going. That's going to be coming up in June. That's June 7th actually for that. But you have no pressure to take that. If you just want to go to that live Q&A that's coming up, just go to Dave's, DM Dave directly, and he'll send you the link. If you're following Dave, if you're following me, you can just go to the link in my bio and get the information there. And, you know, so that's the separation with that. But, you know, we're all on the same page with the same mission, is to free us from the tyranny that we're under now, to recognize our innate rights and inalienable rights, and to you know, come back to that. So we're, you know, even though we're doing some different projects right now, we are on the same mission. And I tell you, man, this is phenomenal. We're coming on 2 hours now, so we better hang up before Instagram will let me save it.
If I could say one more thing too, like guys like Dave, you know, when you come to the House of Marcus, we're going to be putting these teams together of people that are going to, once we get to a point where we're able to, you know, speak to these officials. I mean, we're already able to speak to them, but when we get to this point, we're going to want to put a very professional level team together of guys that can handle for certain people and stuff in their area, to walk them through. This is what we do. This is how we do it, blah, 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 blah. So guys that are really, and gals that are really into it and want to do that, that opportunity is going to come. I mean, and we're building the House of Marcus with nothing. Like, it's not like we had startup capital, you know? So the members are what's really important, because it's about us doing it together. It's not about House of Marcus making money, or, we're just going to make the money from you and then, you're on your own. No. We're a community, and the money goes back in to build this thing because we're building a new earth. Like, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I recommend, I recommend not only the House of Marcus, because these documents that will help you remove yourself from the beast system. He's not going to hold your hands, but he's going to help. He's going to say, listen, here's the documents that you can utilize that'll allow you to remove yourself from the system. And it's a huge process. It's not easy. It's not like an overnight thing. It's not just a template and then you fill out and you're done. It's a team effort of understanding what we're doing and putting the public on notice that we know who we are and we're honorable, we're at peace, and we're not at war, because that's what this system thrives on, is war and emergencies, and that allows them to do everything and claim they have jurisdiction over us. But I recommend, checking out House of Marcus, but also that's pretty much what I'm doing when I'm studying, is like getting on there, watching videos and interacting with other people who are on there. The vibe is great. Everyone wants to learn. Everyone wants to help each other. And the law for mankind is like right there. Everything that I've studied so far with Greg Paul, I did a Zoom call the other day with him and Sylvia. And it's foundational knowledge that can help you understand your role in the system. And it's very empowering spiritually when you understand that you are at the top of the hierarchy just below the creator. It's powerful.
Yeah. You're the air. You're the air. Don't forget it.
Wow. This is great. Okay, so in closing here, guys, if you just click the arrow without having to leave, and you can follow everybody here if you would like to. Go to Dave's account. You can ask him to send him a message. He'll send you the link to get you that information. Go follow Rob. Check out House of Marcus. We got a pin right there, houseofmarcus.org. Guys, this is so great. I'm just excited about the potential. You blew my mind at the end here, Rob, with what you're doing. I didn't realize you're like forming a new union structure, it's phenomenal.
Oh, man, I haven't even unleashed like what we have so far. I mean, it's incredible. That's been shown to me how to lay this out and how we can form an entirely new governance system that is not the old Roman Republic, democracy. Fuck that shit. We're done with that. We've had that for years. We can do it through the power of love and trust. Love and trust, love and trust, love and trust. Everything can be accomplished with love and trust. And trust me, when you see the document, I haven't even unleashed any of this stuff yet that we're talking about, but there is documents and stuff already waiting in the wings. It's just, I have to get people's consciousness up to the point where they can understand that, yes, we can do this. We have the authority to do it. And we do, there is a systematic way, so to speak, no pun intended, of doing it and getting to that point. But there's so many people out there that they have the way and they have the way and they have the way.
Right.
It's all about everybody's way. And I'm like, I just know for me, it's not about my way. It's just the way that I've been shown is, look, how are we going to have a remedy in a system that doesn't want to give it to us?
Yeah.
To me, the only remedy is to create a new one. And that's why I don't chase all this stuff anymore, because I've chased it for years and years and years, and I've seen what it does, And to me, I'm like, oh, it still doesn't feel like an answer. So the answer is to create our own, to me,
Wow. Are you partnering with other organizations that are on a similar same page as you, or are you just rolling up your sleeves?
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. I feel like everything comes that's supposed to come when it's supposed to come. So I've talked to a lot of people. I've been introduced to a lot of people, and my gut was like, hell no, no. So only with the people that vibe. I mean, it's just that simple. And, you really can see in a person the authenticity. If the authenticity is not there, it's not someone that I want to work with at the higher level.
Yeah.
Because we need to be authentic here, and we don't need to get emotions involved and egos about who's making money and who's doing this. No, that's not what this is about. And usually when I got that feeling, something happens later down the road. I'm like, yep, I knew it.
I knew it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's
Intuition.
why I haven't worked with a lot of people yet, but I know I will. I just think God has his own plan for that.
Yeah. Everyone
its
just
own plan. I don't want to say his. People get offended. Its own plan.
Yeah. Dave,
No, I
closing
was just
words.
I was just gonna say there's the hugest component for me in this whole thing is asking the Creator for guidance and wisdom and protection. We're not just down here floundering around. We have help and guidance. We need to ask for it. And I was introduced to Rob by a guy who I have been doing my lawful money redemption with, and it's all connected. And I feel like it's if you ask for that guidance and you just feel lost and like hopeless, don't worry, there's hope. But you have to put in the work. You have to study. Like going back to the learned elders, the end of the fifth protocol of the learned elders of the protocols of Zion. What they fear most is initiative, individuals taking initiative, and if there's a touch of genius behind it, you're a dangerous threat to the system, and it will crumble. It will crumble, and we are going to build the new. We are building it now, just by laying the foundations. And that's why you can do the Law for Mankind, the free Q&A on the 25th. You can join House of Marcus. $33 a month is a good investment to have that support, to have these documents, these trust documents, these amazing documents that you just have to put in the work, and it'll take you places. I have no doubt in my mind, and I just pray that that God protects Rob and protects you as well, Ben, and protects me, so we can continue on this path to bring as much people up from this dead, dying system and be reborn again into the Spirit with the Creator, and all in harmonizing with natural law. Hell yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hell
Man.
yeah. That's,
Amen, man. Thank you.
You guys, it's an honor to be in your circle here. So, I mean, I'm really grateful for it every time. So, much love to you both.
Love you guys
too, man. Thank you, Ben, for doing this, and Dave for always being on, man, and shining your light, brother.
Yeah, and to
you.
everybody who's support, all the support, all the love, we see it coming through. Obviously, we can't comment on everything, but we see these messages, and it means a lot. You guys are right there with us. So, much love to all you guys.
Lots of love, guys.
Sir. See you guys.
Till next time.
Time.